And yes, it is Friday, the 30th of June, and it is the end of the financial year. Now, we've got a lot of problems around the world at the moment when it comes to money. People don't have enough of it. The government keeps trying to steal it and making too much of it. So inflation goes through the roof and we all end up having none of it. And it's a very, very sad state of affairs at the moment. But let's have a look. Have you ever thought about what is the benefits of genetically modified food and how it can impact on our lives in so many different ways, and even in the financial side, because they're trying to say that genetically modified food is cheaper, more cost effective, safer as in to the environment, not to the human being, the end consumer, but to the environment. Have you ever thought about how people focus mainly on crops? But what about animals, which are livestock? And of course, I've been focusing a fair bit on cows and sheep when it comes to this subject. Now, have you ever thought that you would end up with, look at these type of defects that have come from these poor cows that have had genetically modified technology used on them. So what is a genetically modified cow? It's a transgenic cow. Transgenic cows are genetically modified cows. They have an extra gene or genes inserted into their DNA. The extra gene may come from the name species or from a different species. So then we've got mama and a little baby. I think we've had that picture before, haven't we? But anyway, so they were introduced. What is a genetically modified cow? So they're talking about, you can read those yourself. They're talking about all the type of slow growing resistant to mastitis, which is what women have as well, which has to do with the milk coming through the teats. And they have a bacterial infection that can lead to severe death, shush Charlie, problems in cows. Now, you have to think, why is she going on about cows and GM, and she's talking about all this type of stuff? Well, they're trying to make animals. First they had the hornless cows, and then they've had ones that they wanted to make them even more fatter, with more muscles. They could have more meat. And then now they've got them, look at this, they even tried to get them to have human milk come out from the cows. So it's really quite ridiculous. So back in 2011, the genetically modified cow is 50% the same as human breast milk. Wow. That never took off, did it? Wonder why. Do you think that maybe something happened to the cows? I think something might have, because we know what GM stuff does. So when we come along here, and this is what it came to, this article here, can you believe that this is 13 years ago? This article is from the 1st of May 2010, and look at the name of it. Mutant cows die in GM trial. Wow. So they were doing genetically modified sequencing on cows back in 2010, and the cows died. Now, you're going to be horrified when you see this. Now, what happened when people took a certain treatment recently, especially females? They ended up with spontaneous abortions, unable to get pregnant, with cancer of the ovaries, and maybe even of heavy bleeding on the monthlies, because of a certain treatment that had some side effects. But anyway, let's have a look and see what happened to these cows 13 years ago that were given some GM modified treatments. Genetically modified cows were born with ovaries that grew so large they caused ruptures and killed the animals. Wow. Look at that. We bungled experiments happened during sequencing and blah, 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 to fund human fertility treatments through cow's milk. Did you see where the cow's milk, with the other article we were just looking at? They're trying to make cows have milk that humans can have, but they're also trying to make fertility treatments. It's like they're trying to make a hybrid between cows and humans when it comes to breast milk. Okay, the research studied tissues from one of 3 dead calves to try to find out what made the ovaries grow to the size of tennis balls rather than the usual thumbnail size. Can you imagine now? Just think of what happened to a lot of women when they had a certain treatment. I think it was AstraZeneca, and they ended up with like blood clots. Would you not think that maybe these ovaries that grew to the size of a tennis ball instead of to the size of a thumbnail might have been perhaps that type of effect? Maybe. So you can read on here. Details of the deaths in veterinary reports were released, blah, blah, blah. And it reignited debates over the ethics of genetically modified trials on animals. That was 13 years ago. They tried it on the cows, and the poor female cows died, the calves died, the offspring. And now they're trying it on humans. I just don't understand. And yet they say it's safe and effective. But anyway, you can read through all of this. I'm not going to read too much. It's quite horrific. I was quite upset to read all of this because the calves died last year, which would have been in 2019. And they, but this is the scariest part here. They were formed when human genetic code, see that? Human genetic code was injected into a cow's cells and was added to an egg from a cow's ovary and put into a cow's uterus. So what they've done is they've done in vitro fertilization with human genetic code inserted into a cow's egg and then put into, transplanted like a surrogate into the cow. And they wondered why they all died. Who the hell does that? So there you go. Tells you what they were hoping to do. I've got quite a few more articles like this that I'm going to be posting. I'm really quite passionate about this. And they're hoping to use the proteins to treat human disorders. Who cares about the poor animals? And then they had to kill they ended up having to cull a whole heap of animals because they'd given them all of this and then they found that it wasn't really effective. Yes, the calves had bigger abdomens and thicker necks but seemed otherwise healthy, apart from the one that easily drew short of breath. Tests 5 months later found 3 of the 4 calves had abnormally large ovaries. When the calves were 6 months old, one died suddenly from a hemorrhage. Probably because of the stretching and distortion caused by the deformed ovaries. 5 days later, a second calf died after her ovary became twisted and separated from her uterus. And the third calf with oversized ovaries was killed the same day so scientists could study her tissue. Oh, how nice of them. They wanted to get some of the tissue that hadn't ruptured so they could make sure that it was A-OK for humans, yes. So how about that? 5 months. 5 months after they all had been born from a mother that had been given this treatment, they all died. Wow. I just don't know what to say. Well, anyway, I'm going to post this. Think about it. Tell me what you think. I'd love to know what everybody thinks about this. And please look after yourselves, look after your family, look after your friends, and look after your dear darling animals because it's not fair. They're being treated terribly. But anyway, Godspeed to all. Godspeed.